First of all, we're going to start with a review about what is medieval literature, French literature specifically, and who are the three types of writers in that time. So if somebody remembers the three types of composer, of writers, of entertainers. So who are these three elements or writers that are based in the medieval period?
Troubadours,
Troubadours,
clerks,
who else?
jugglers.
Clerks
Flirts, flirts, jugglers.
and jugglers. Marcela, who is a juggler? Who was the juggler?
The juggler
Yes,
were the people that entertain the street.
exactly. Hazy, who were the troubadours?
The, the poets.
They were the poets. And let's see, Nicole. So who were the clerks? Who were the clerks? For Jensen, who were the clerks?
The one that was rushing, right? That
Patronize, the one that patronized to the troubadours. Exactly, the one that patronized the troubadours. Okay, so right now we're gonna continue with the topic. I'm gonna we're about to see first of all in medieval literature in the second class the historical context about this type of literature. We're gonna know that the troubadours will depend exclusively of the patronage of the feudal courts. The feudal courts were the ones that paid for the art of the troubadours. They were the ones that have in their homes, in this case in the feudal courts. So the troubadours were like the ones that were being taken care of the feudal courts. So in other words, feudals, feudal courts patronized the troubadours. They were the only ones that patronized the troubadours, giving them home, giving them money, also food, and whatever they wanted to. There was a problem. There was a problem, a, a problem in the 13th century. They were suffering a war. They were suffering a war, and in the 13th century, the nobles of the south get ruined by the war. What does that mean? Okay, so they were in two zones or in two regions. Northern authors and southern authors. These are the two types of writers in the 13th century. But in France, there were a civil war in which they were suffering more, the ones of the south than the one of the north. So in this moment, they start to gain waned. What means waned? They start suffering. They start getting decreased, and obviously in their money. So what does that occurs? Well, if they don't have money, what will be the logical answer? Nadia, if the patronizers have no money, what will happen with the literature of the southern?
And they will not create more because if they don't have the funds to create the books, so they will not write neither. And the
Exactly.
jugglers will not narrate anything because they don't have nothing like a base literature to tell to the people. So troubadours and jugglers cannot make their function.
Exactly. So the money were the base or was the base in which the southern authors obviously were creating art. But in the moment that they were suffering too much with the war, what happens is that the northern authors are aware. they were a new movement and they start getting a better counterpart in the story of the literature. So we're gonna see that the Northern authors, they were considered as this word, the trouvère. This is a French word, but we're gonna say it the trouvères, different than the troubadours. So northern, the northern authors were considered as the trouvères, and the southern authors were considered as the troubadours. Exactly, the troubadours. These are the two names that you must remember. That this is a historical context in which they were based. Something else, the troubadours were very focused on these things in narrative. They were based in narrative style or narrative genre in literature. And as a counterpart, the troubadours were more based in what? Do you think? Well, in lyric or in poetry. Well, it's better to say it as lyric. So they were based in lyric. Remember, lyric is more about poems, more about music, more about all that kind of stuff. In narratives is different because it's written in prose. Right
And
here, prose,
the topic was the love, as you
exactly. And lyric is verses. So this is the thing that you must have in your notebook. Know their authors, well, the true verse, and they were based in narratives. Inside a parenthesis, the prose. And the southern authors were the troubadours, and they were based in lyrics, verses. That's the way that we call to lyric a style or the way that is structured lyrics. Do you understand the historical context that I'm explaining? Yes? Is this clear? Guys, is this clear?
yes.
Yes, okay. So I'm gonna continue. Do you copy already this? Not everything, just the things that I put in red. This is for you just to know.
Wait,
Okay, let me erase. Okay, let's continue. The most famous, guys, the most famous poetry way to write is the chanson de geste. The chanson de geste is also a French word that is in our English song of deed. That is called the songs or the songs of deed or adventure. The songs of the adventures of different heroes. This was one of the French poetry way that comes very vigorous in this time, the chanson de geste. This type of literature is based on telling or narrating the adventures of different types of heroes that they invented. And the subject that they were based on was on knights, or as I already told you, the royal heroes. Other stories, guys, that are tell another time or that were awake in this time was about classic stuff. Remember, medieval literature was based on what type of thoughts? Classical literature. So in this moment, you will see, I'll show you here, that they were telling another time the stories of Alexander the Great, Greek conquer story, also about the mythical heroes of Homer and Virgil. In this, if you have read Homer, Homer is one of the writers of the Iliad and also the Odyssey. Have you guys have listened about the Cyclops? Yes, Nadia, that book about the Cyclops. Have you read about the Cyclops that they only have one eye? About mermaids also that we see in nowadays that they are like fables and mythical stuff. So all these type of heroes, guys, that you were seeing or reading in the Greek and Latin literature, in this time they start again over again telling the same stories, obviously with different focus and with different uh, ways. Let's see one, and this is important for you to know. Copy this. The most important, or one of the most important masterpieces of the chanson de geste in French literature is the Chanson de Rodin. This is one of the most important books of the French literature in the medieval times, the Chanson de Rodin. This story tells about a soldier of Charlemagne in the times that he died. Roland and Oliver, there are the two characters of this story, of this chanson, and they died trying to rescue the principal character of the story. So the Chanson de Rodin is one of the most important books in the chanson de geste genre in the French literature. Do you understand this? Is this clear? Yes? Guys, is this clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as we remain, guys, last time, I was telling you that the Chanson de Rodin is one of the most important books in these times of the Chanson de Geste. We have three main divisions in the medieval French poetry, and this is important for you to copy. This is the main three divisions. Obviously, we're going to have two poets, two early poets that contribute in a great manner the collection of stories of this time. The first one, you will see here, the first one is Marie de France, and the second one, Chrétien de Troyes. These two poets, these two poets are the most important in the early beginning of the French literature, in the medieval literature. These two poets. We have three main divisions, guys, that you must know. Number one, the first division or the first genre in which the French poetry was based is in the fable. Now I will ask, this is a topic or this is a genre that you have seen in Spanish. So I will ask to Yanis, in what consists a fable or a fairy tale in that case, but a fable?
What?
In what consists a fable? What is a fable? As you see in Spanish class, what is a fable? Fábula, fable.
Ah,
It's the same, yes. What is a fable?
okay. It's like a type of, how can I say? No. It's like a story,
Mhm.
but short, but where appears like animals.
With personalities that they can
With
talk,
they can
exactly,
talk.
all that stuff.
Mhm.
So from here, well, we have in the library, if you remember, we have this book of the fables of Aesop, Aesop. So this is one of the famous writers of fables, but in the classic time. Remember, he's classic. He is classic in the classic time. So fable, guys, is the first division in which French poetry is divided. In this time of fables, the book that was most remarkable is this one, The Romance of Reynard the Fox. This is the first, one of the most emblematic, famous fables in this time, The Romance of Reynard the Fox. Also, we have another guy that was remarkable and a great fable maker, and his name was La Fontaine. La Fontaine is considered also one of the most great fable makers of the later French literature, La Fontaine. This type of fable, guys, was based on this. They were not simple animals to intend to be a portrait, like an example of society. But the fables that we're going to read in French literature in the medieval times, they were like affording this type of topics with a humorous way of human character. So the main difference, guys, with the ones of the classic fables is that in the classic fables they use animals to represent people. For example, can you tell me one of the famous fables that you have read? Well, the Three Pigs, for example. What other? Other that you have read?
The rabbit and the turtle.
The Rabbit and the Turtle. What else? The Lion and
And
exactly. So all that type of fable, guys, were based. So they put animals, but what they try to represent are human beings. That is the
Miss-
main purpose of a fable. Yes, Nadia?
and something too important is that they transmit a message that is like a moral.
Exactly. They always will have a moral. They always will have a moral. So in this French literature, the difference in this type of fables is that they are looking with a humorous way. The things that have a human. They look at it with a humor, with comedy, things that happen with humor. They try to represent it this way. Do you understand this? The first division, you already copied them. The fables, the book, the most representative book is the Romance of Reynard the Fox. Actually, guys, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna upload it to the webpage, all the presentation. The great fable maker is La Fontaine, and the fables in these times they want to represent with humorous way human characters. I'll continue.
Mister,
Yes.
how we write it? We put the fable, Aesop, Romance of Reynard the Fox, La Fontaine, and
Yes, you're gonna summarize all the presentation in the most important things that I highlight you right now in the class. So let's continue. After that, we have the second division that are called the didactic poems. The didactic poems, as different as the fables, they are moralistic and didactic. What means didactic, guys?
Teach.
That the main purpose of this type of poems is to teach how to live. So we're gonna see that they are very allegorical, moralistic, and didactic. These are the characteristics of the didactic poems. Obviously, this type of poems, they want to represent, look, virtues and the vices of human beings. So they are trying to teach humans about all the bad things that they have done and how they can afford that problems, that type of vices that they have. One of the greatest examples of this type of poems is this one, the Romance of the Rose. And the main theme of this poem is the art of love, how to love. This is the main purpose of this book of poems. So the second division is didactic poems. The first one is fables. Fables. Number two, didactic poems. And let's see, number three. That is the last one. Lyrics. In this division, we're gonna see different type of kings. Not only troubadours or not only poets. Also the kings in that time were really intellectual and also very cool. So we're gonna see as the most important Thibaut Fort of Champagne. This is the name of one of the authors. Also to Richard I of England, the Lion-Hearted, that was his nickname, pen name. James I of Scotland, and also one of the most important, but here is obviously Alfonso X of Spain, the learned. Alfonso X was obviously a king of Spain. And as you see here are like in general of different nations, the most important kings that were also writers, poets. So the lyric style was the other division, the main division in French poetry. So do you have questions about the three types of the main division of the French literature or no? You have questions about this?
We can say that the difference between the lyric of the Southern and the Northern is that in the Northern, and the lyric was for the kings, or how I can see the difference.
Okay, look, the main difference between Southern and Northern writers is this. Northern writers were based in narrative. Remember, in this case, they were singers, but also they are telling stories. They are telling stories and they are looking for lyrical way to express. So Southern were more based in music, something that can be more adapted to music, to something that is like more, how can I say, is based in verses, is based in poetry. And lyric in this case is also poems, but narrative poems. So what is the main difference? They tell stories. And in the other type of poetry, they are just trying to enhance they are trying to describe things. They describe things as a poem, as we see now. The problem, guys, is that right now, if I tell you, write me a poem, you always will think in small verses of literature. But in that times, poems were also called to the narrations in verses, and also in prose. So there we have, as the book that has Nadia over there, original, the Odyssey was written, it was a poem, an epic poem that tells the adventures of, in this case, of Ulysses, or all the things that he was passing through. So, guys, as a reminder, number one, the chanson de geste is the most important movement in this type of literature. Number two, there were three main divisions of this French literature. Lyric, number two, what else? Uh-huh. Lyric,
Fable.
fables,
And what?
Didactic poems.
didactic poems, exactly. Fables are trying to represent society with a humorous way. Number two, the lyric are trying to show, well, also characteristics of humans. And the didactic poem, they have the main purpose to teach about virtues and vices of humans, how to afford them. So we are in remaining 1 more minute, guys. So if you have questions, you may ask right now. The homework, I will put it in the platform later, okay? Homework, I will put it over there. That is just to summarize with the most important parts of the presentation that I also will upload it over there. So, bye guys. If you don't have any question, Nadia, no?
No.
Okay. Bye guys. Take care. I will not take you more time.